Welcome to Money Hangout. We bring you this weekly interaction. We try to help you understand investment and savings issues every week. This is brought to you by, with help of Birla Sun Life and Value Research. Uh, Last week, as I told you, that we will talk about the risks of equity investing and or investments in equity, and this is the question which most people have or ask. But something significant happened during the week. Last week, not yeah, on Tuesday, our Prime Minister just came on TV at 8 o'clock to say that 500 and 1,000 rupee denomination currency will be will not be a legal tender, will not be an acceptable legal tender, and we had this. It did really cause panic. It really did cause anxiety. And the way to overcome is that we have to queue up at the bank, exchange our 4,000 rupees. We can deposit up to 2,500 rupees, 2,50,000 rupees in our bank account if we have withdrawn such money from our bank. People who have bank account, they can deposit up to that much, withdraw 4,000 rupees a day with a weekly limit. So we see suddenly that we have money, but we can't buy stuff. Last week, I raided my children's piggy bank and got a big collection of the coins. Here it is. So this, so our savings came in very handy. We never knew that we will have to lay our hands on this saving to make our day-to-day essential purchases. Of course, we have not been able to put to good use. Not too many people are interested in this loose change, but yes, it did come in handy, and this is quite a sizable amount. Some 1,800 rupees. Uh, but that apart, the daily struggle for the common person to queue up at the bank and exchange his currency, or struggling to get money out of our ATMs. Uh, while in our office, while coming to our office, we have a couple of banks here, and we have to really pass through very crowded lanes here to reach. So the pain is, this is something which has affected every citizen of this country, at least in the larger cities. And so there are a lot of, and now I'll explain. A lot of people are in difficulty to manage their day-to-day expenses, and I think it's a matter of few days that we will overcome this problem. A lot of businesses have been frozen. A lot of businesses are unable to source things because the currency, the demonetized currency is the exchange of was the medium of exchange. So people are unable to buy and sell stuff. But this will be overcome in some time. I'm here to just think harder, or think louder about some of the long-term implication, short-term implication on few dimensions. This is perhaps one of the biggest economic action by the government, which might prove to be a turning point for our country. Uh, the result of this is that there are, if I look at it in very tangible terms, for individuals, it is going to have an immediate impact on few things. One is that uh, the interest rates will come down. Banks are flush with funds. The way this, 13, 14 lakh crore rupees will find it, a good part of it will find its way into bank. And the way it will gradually, even if it has to move out of the bank, it will gradually move out. And we will see an era of digital. We will not the phase of cash transaction, or the, I would say that illegitimate business activity. Legitimate business activities, because they don't pay taxes, they become illegitimate, or the earnings from that. And that had led to a large parallel economy that will definitely be on a steady decline. People will just not find it worthwhile. Because today, so far, there was never a penalization, there was never a penalty for those people who function that way. You can conduct a business. I was just talking to a person, uh, yeah, a pan vendor here. He sells gutka, and in my neighborhood, I know some of the gutka manufacturers. The big flow is that substantial part of the business, the sourcing is done in cash. The money spent by way of salaries and packaging and other things can also be made in cash. The goods are sold in cash at retail cigarette and pan vendors, by retail cigarette and pan vendors, and most of the money finds its way back to the owner in cash. and that cash finds its way into buying a lot of properties. And buying big properties with a lot of cash was an easy thing. Now this thing will get stuck because today that was the final destination of assets getting created by way of this activity. That will be disrupted. This is definitely going to be disrupted, and that is going to be huge benefit for the individuals, because in all big cities it has become a dream for any successful person. Even if you work hard, do well, succeed, earn well, you can't buy a house. That might become a possibility. That apart, I think a lot of businesses will be forced to become legitimate. Today we have two kind of businesses: the illegitimate ones, the ones which are able to grapple with handling cash, and the others which are not. The ones which are not are at a competitive disadvantage. They lack the flexibility. They lack also sometimes they lack the speed, and sometimes they just can't compete with a lot of the informal ways of conducting business. This will translate into something even more significant: the legitimacy of a lot of businesses becoming legitimate or legitimate in their conduct will prepare them for being scalable. Today, the owner has to sit there because he has to handle cash. Tomorrow, when businesses will organize themselves so that they can be scaled up and they will become legitimate, then they will be ready to be scaled up. And I think a lot of these entrepreneurs who waste their time handling this cash, managing this cash, deployment of the cash, they will not find it worthwhile. So I think I'm still looking at the bright spot of this whole action. Of course, this is going to be a short-term disruption. A lot of businesses employ large number of people, and they will be under stress because those businesses will face hardship, and that is going to really see a lot of people in our surrounding who will face the great difficulty. They might lose their jobs. A lot of production facilities might come down. But on the other hand, a lot of businesses will get organized, they will scale up, and they will employ a lot of other people. In the process, in this transition, lot of people might get hurt permanently. But from an individual point, for a legitimate individual who gets up in the morning, works hard, earns money, and earns money which gets credited in his bank account, and he pays taxes. Of course, tax for a salaried person is deducted at source, so he doesn't have a choice. I think he will be living at peace. One more thing, which the economics of investment, the economics of deploying your surplus, is going to see a big transformation. So far, it was possible for people to deploy their cash, the untaxed paid, non-tax paid money productively. It will become difficult. Not only it will become difficult, the other side of the story, that if you have 100 rupees on which you haven't paid taxes, and if you have 100 rupees on which you have paid taxes, and it becomes 70 rupees, that will multiply. You will be at liberty to invest that in the way and the manner in which you want to, and you will be able to multiply it faster, efficiently. You will have the flexibility, and you will sleep nicely. You'll sleep well without any worries, and that I think is so people will realize that it is simply more profitable to legitimize themselves. Of course, a lot of people are complaining that this is not going to solve the black money problem. No single action can ever solve any problem. But I think this is a big shift forward, in the sense that somebody who was doing entirely cash will start doing some legitimate business. Somebody who was doing partially cash, partially illegitimate activity, on which he won't pay taxes, they will start, increasingly working towards making it all legitimate. The people who are doing some marginal such activity, because it is not in absolute terms. A lot of people start as an entrepreneur, start small, then they don't pay tax, and on a small scale it is possible to do that, but suddenly they turn big, or gradually they turn big, and they don't know how to change track. And once they don't know how to change track, and the way they have conducted in the past, it becomes a habit, and today that habit is turning out to be a disaster. Today that habit is turning out to be a disaster of a proportion, entirely depending on your scale of success. If you were hugely successful, you are a huge disaster today, and people will take lesson from this. And this is not the end of it. Today we have come across a political leadership which is committed to doing something, or they can go to any length to make something happen. So this may not be the end of it. I think we are playing a game. Yeah, it's not worthwhile playing the game of trying to circumvent the law in manner. Of course, everybody will work very hard to convert their accumulated large cash into something with worthwhile, but it will not be easy. It will come with a lot of pain, and this is going to be one of the biggest trigger point for people to change. Uh, how does it affect individuals, people like us? In many ways. One is that we can feel happy that our stuff is all right. We can sleep well. The only problem is that for a couple of days we might have some problem. Just not having enough cash to buy something essential, but we will be quickly overcoming that. That part. Buying a house in a lifetime will become a reality for most common people, common investors. That is definitely an aspiration. It will not only become affordable, and I would say that don't rush your home buying decision. Don't get into this rut of the mess of pulling out cash from your legitimate account to pay in cash. Don't get into that. I think those days are numbered. You'll be able to buy and have the patience, because my sense is that it is going to be a patience game. Have your own formula of the price at which you will buy. If you are, and I would say that have a very simple formula. If the rent that you are paying, it must, the house price of a house should be 4% of its rental yield. So if you are living in a house, or if you want a house which will cost you say 25,000 rupees a month, which means you'll be paying an annual 3 lakh rupees by way of rent. And if this is going to be 4% of your so the capital value should be in this proportion. The house for which you are paying 3 lakh rupees by way of rent should not cost more than 1.2 crore rupees. And if you fit in this framework, you will be well off. Have patience. You'll be able to buy it. Just a matter of time. Maybe wait for a little longer. And it is very important to have this formula. Be little flexible about this formula a little bit. Maybe this ratio, this real yield can go down to 3%, but don't budge. But have this mental framework. If you don't have this, you are likely to get guzzled into this emotional blackmailing that you need a house and you have to pay for it somehow, and whatever it takes. That I think is a bad idea, because you have to look at it in a very hard-nosed economic. You have to take a hard-nosed economic decision. Then comes what happens to our stock market. This can potentially trigger a decade-long, bull run, because a lot of businesses will get created. Businesses which are organized to scale up, they will benefit substantially, and the economy will thrive. It will generate employment. It will create the purchasing power. I'm not referring to the short-term crisis that we might have in hand. Maybe next 3 months, next 6 months, we will see a disruption. But beyond that, I think it is going to be a long-term. This could be the start of real India rising. So I wish you very best. Don't get derailed from your systematic investment, from your methodical investment plan that you have. Carry on with your plan. Don't get distracted. Stay calm. Overcome your immediate crisis, and try and invest as much as possible. I think the times of crisis will create a lot of turbulence. We will see 500 points up and down on many days in the coming months. This will create great opportunity. If you're investing 10% of your income, or if you're investing 90% of your savings, try and save more and invest 110% of your current savings. If you can do that, you will have huge rewards your way, and this will. I think this is a historic opportunity for our market, for our economy, for the country. And when I'm looking at the social aspects, it is. It could be awe-inspiring. This is once in a lifetime opportunity for us to be investing for the long term in the market. Don't get distracted. Don't get unnerved by the big upheavals we are witnessing every day. So I will be now looking forward to answering your questions. Let me see if we have some questions now.
Thank you, Dhiren. Indeed, lots of people have lots of things on their mind as a result of this announcement, and that's quite visible in the kind of queries we've been receiving from our audience. Let me take the first one. Rushil is asking, how will demonetization affect the housing finance sector?
Housing finance sector will be in big trouble because first and foremost we have to accept the fact that at every stage of housing development, broadly there are three kind of uh, you know uh, construction activity, or the building activity that takes place. One is the commercial real estate. That's a completely different story that I think will not be hurt. Of course, the values of those investments will go down because uh, that even that part of the activity is reasonably funded by cash economy. But it will still have the rental yield of a reasonable kind or of a respectable kind, so it may not be hurt as badly. Then comes the residential new development. A lot of builders borrowed money, or bought the land by paying partly substantially in cash and partly in with legitimate money, sold their projects, and they are unable to put it together. That's a different crisis altogether. There are a lot of investors who have borrowed money, invested in a project, or put their money with a builder, and that builder is unable to deliver that house. So this person is facing uh, a real crisis. He's paying the EMI, and he took this loan in anticipation that he will be able to stop paying his rent once he moves in his house. All that plan has gone haywire, and that has led to the disruption of the real estate even before this demonetization scheme. uh, Cash economy was funding this real estate development to tide over this problem in a limited way. Most builders have borrowed heavily from the cash market to fund that development. That thing has come to a standstill, and I think a lot of them will go bankrupt. In fact, this is a very unusual sector. We have two largest companies, erstwhile largest companies in the real estate sector, uh, whose stock price has gone down by 80-90%. One of it is actually 95%. We see court orders against them, for them to either pay up or go to jail every other day. So when the leaders of a particular sector are under such stress, and I don't see a silver lining here. I think investors should have patience. I think in next 5-10 years we will be getting an opportunity. If you haven't bought a house, uh, have patience, have your formula in place, then wait. Uh, if you have bought a house, pray so that you get your house somehow, and otherwise initiate your legal process, because even the real estate bill has enacted a lot of things to protect investors' interest, but that is still some time away. Initiate your legal proceeding if you see that the state of the project is such that you are unlikely to get in real time in any near future. Then start initiating that, because you will be first in the queue if some rescue happens. Then comes the secondary market. A lot of houses are resold. That I think is a big problem, because most of the houses being resold, they have a huge cash component. They are depreciating asset. Some houses are very old, and that I think will take a big hit. That will take a big hit simply because if somebody has borrowed money to do that, most transactions will not happen. Most of these rebuilding exercises are on a standstill. So my sense is that keep away from that segment. Yes, a lot of people are in the transition. Some people bought a house. They are lucky. They got the house. They paid in cash, and they are now the owners. But then there is the other side of this transaction. Some person who sold a house for 1.5 crore, 1.25 crore, got 25 lakh rupees by way of check, and he got 1 crore by way of cash. He is going to be in trouble. He will have nowhere to go. This is going to be one of the worst. It is going to be a nightmare, because you thought that you were wealthy. Now you have 1 crore. You can spend it wisely, and that 1 crore is worthless, and you can't really account for it. So this is something which I think we should take a lesson. Money is a flow, and I don't think you should look at it in a very absolute term that this is the money and it will live there forever and it will have and it will be able to preserve its value. We are in those people are in real crisis. If you have a house, uh, live in it. Don't try and speculate. Don't try and avoid this. If at all you have a house, take a big discount. If you have to sell it, take the money in cash. You will sleep well, and the realization will be worth you will relish that. Any other form is going to be a huge challenge for most people.
Thanks, Siren. Moving on, one of our viewer says that he received 60 lakh in cash after he sold some land and wants to know if he'll have to pay a penalty to the income tax department if he deposits it in his bank account.
Depends. If it is an ancestral property, and if he can show that he got this money, if he got this in, if it is accounted for in the paper, uh, he can well deposit that money in cash in his bank account, and he can account for it, and he will not even be liable for the capital gains. If this is the money which he has got in a form which is not accounted for in his registration papers, then he's in trouble. He will have to put that, and nothing will be left, because tax plus 200% penalty doesn't leave anything for you.
Moving on, Mr. Das asks if we'll see lower taxes on salaries in the future on account of the crackdown.
I'm hopeful. Government has different ways of raising taxes. This is one. My sense is that if there is a 20% no show of this currency, it is a situation that the government issued a check, and the guy who has the check had to tear it off or throw it off. So government doesn't owe this money anymore. It is almost like getting money for free. You're not alive. You are no longer. Government doesn't have this liability anymore. If we have 10 to 20%, that will be a huge sum. That apart, I think the GST will come into effect next year, and that will lead to huge tax mobilization, because a lot of businesses, because I'm looking at this move in conjunction with GST, a lot of businesses will be forced to be legitimate post GST, and this demonetization will be able to knock a sizable part of our black money. So I'm hopeful that the tax bracket might become very liberal. The government will recognize that a person earning 6 lakh rupees a year should not be paying taxes because he is not well off. He is a poor guy who, because in 50,000 rupees in a metropolitan, you barely make a living with that earning. So I'm hopeful, and I think we should be very optimistic or positive about expecting something dramatic from this government, as this particular move has demonstrated.
That's very interesting. Everyone would look forward to it. Moving on, now this next one, I'm sure a lot of people would be thinking about this. Mr. Doshi wants to know how long will it take for black money to become widespread once again, and will it be larger this time with the launch of 2000 rupee notes?
If the government does nothing after this, then because black money is not created out of nowhere. But yes, this is a huge move, because black money is not going to get eradicated. There will still be businesses who will be able to run businesses where they will be realizing cash, bypassing the need to pay taxes. They will be conducting themselves in like that. But this will be forcing out of, and real estate collapse, I think the subsequent things that will happen will be bigger. The incentive for people to conduct their business and raise cash or have cash will disappear. Once people realize that having cash is a very stupid thing, then they will stop doing it. And I think that is going to be one of the bigger impact of this move.
Moving on, Shella wants to explore what would be the impact on the consumption story, and what's your view on future inflation?
Consumption story gets a short-term blow, because a lot of people who were buying this, and a good part of it was cash. People will become thrifty. The biggest impact on our behavior is going to be that we will be more careful before spending our money. But a lot of the consumption story will still be impact. If If the economy does well, a lot of people get jobs, people will spend money. They will spend money, and the money will. And so the consumption story in the organized sector, I think, only gets bigger and reinforced. In fact, we should be looking forward to greater prosperity, more organized sector players who will come, prosper, and thrive. Because a lot of these businesses are very smart businesses, but they have chosen the path of being illegitimate or thriving on the cash economy. Once they are forced to conduct themselves in a different manner, they will, we will be in a very thriving consumer economy once again. We should not forget that the very basics are still very are intact. The largest population of young people in this world, uh, young people, they will be getting an opportunity to work in the organized sector. They'll be earning, and what do they do with that money? A good part of it will be spent. Though I would wish that more people invest money than spending.
Next up, Mr. Khosla asks if the threshold for cash deposits is higher for senior citizens. That's 3 lakhs instead of 2.5 lakh.
It is not a matter of threshold. There is absolutely no ceiling on the amount of money that you can deposit in a bank. If you have withdrawn money in recent months or in this financial year from your bank and it is lying in your locker, you can legitimately go and put all that money back into your bank account. And you can give a declaration even when the government asks. You took that money out for a purpose, you are depositing that back because the demonetization actually makes that currency unusable. Taking money out from your bank is not illegal. But the government has been very explicit. 2.5 lakh rupees is the tax exempt status, and for senior citizen, it's 3 lakh rupees. So I'm thinking that government will not even bother to ask those people. Uh, and there was an ad today in the newspaper where the Prime Minister is making a statement by way of this advertisement by Government of India that money up to 2.5 lakh rupees deposited in your bank account there will be no questions asked.
Next up, Dhiren, Milind asks if investing in government securities is beneficial in the current interest rate scenario, and also the expectations given this announcement.
Yes, this is going to be a one-time opportunity because I'm expecting that the interest rates will crumble or will fall in a more accelerated manner. And simply the supply of money at a certain level, money is also a commodity. So more money in the system getting in a legitimate form will create a glut, and that will actually reduce the worth of that money. The premium that you pay for it for having it comes down dramatically. So I'm hopeful, and that will lead to interest rates coming down. We have already witnessed, the day after the demonetization announcement, the 10-year GOI yield came down by 10 basis points. It was quite unprecedented. So that will definitely come, and government bond funds, government bonds and government bond funds are going to be the key beneficiary, because those are the only bonds which are of very longer maturity. Longer the maturity of the bond, the higher the appreciation. Because when you have a bond which is yielding 9% and will keep yielding 9% for another 16 year, 18 year, or 20 years, that bond gains more when interest rates come down. Shorter maturity bond, the corporate bond, or the income fund which hold shorter maturity bonds, they don't go up in value as much because their commitment or the promise to give you higher yield is for a limited period. So yes, government long maturity government bonds will definitely be one of the biggest beneficiary of this move.
Thanks, Hiren. Though we are on top of our scheduled time, but I'll take the liberty of extending it by a few more minutes so that we can accommodate some more questions that have been pouring in. Next up, Rashmi wants to launch a startup in clothing and hospitality and wants to know if demonetization will benefit her in any way.
It will benefit. I don't see why one should be worried. If you are getting started, startup is nothing but a new business. If you're starting your business, I think it is a wake-up call. If you ever thought of getting started with a business with a sizable illegitimate component, you should not have got started with this idea in the first place. You should go and brush your understanding that why you are starting this business, how to financially conduct your business, and more and more businesses. I think for somebody who is organized, it's a huge opportunity because most businesses have this habit of conducting their business in an illegitimate way, or at least handling the proceeds of that business, and that becomes their biggest enemy. Because once you conduct your business like that, you are not geared to scale up. You are not configured to for large scalability. Once you conduct your business in a legitimate way, you will grow big, and you will grow big with the potential to get even bigger because nothing stops you. When you conduct it in cash, at a certain point, you don't know where to get those people whom you can trust who will manage the cash. And then what do you do with that cash? Deploy it in something which will become unproductive, or which will become messy and you'll lose your sleep. It's not worth it. So lot of disorganized businesses in this sector will be getting phased out. So I think getting started now with a mindset to conduct a legitimate business is going to be one of the biggest opportunity, and you will be a beneficiary of that.
Moving on to a question on the other big news of the week, Dhiren. Deepak wants to know what will happen to the Indian stock markets now that Donald Trump has become the American president.
I don't know, and nobody knows, and nobody knows because nobody knows how Donald Trump will conduct, and that is one of the biggest fear. Markets dislike uncertainty, and nobody knows how will he. And but whatever he has said, we can safely assume that US will become a slightly or a reasonably protectionist economy. Some of our businesses will be hurt negatively. If that find, of course, yeah, and on many other dimensions, we will be benefiting from Mr. Trump becoming the president. But the fact is that he is actually unknown. He has said too many things, and he has said too many erratic things. He has said a thing which was completely unexpected. But how he conducts as a president, how he conducts when he's faced with the real situation of running the economy. Yes, US will definitely become protectionist. We have, and some of our IT businesses might be hurt very badly. But that apart, I don't think we are going. We should be looking at this presidency with great deal of openness. The kind of negativity that has prevailed, but now he's going to be the president, and I think we should be little optimistic about the real thing, his real actions.
Next up, Dhiren, Anish is 28 years old, and he thinks that he's lost out on investing in the past 4 years, but now wants to make up, for the lost time and start investing. He wants to know how can he make up for the lost time.
You really don't have to make up for that. And if at all you want to make up for that, then save little more and invest that money. You are young enough to get started now. Start tomorrow. Don't wait. And the reason we talked 2 weeks back that what the real impediment to somebody getting started, get started tomorrow. Things are going to remain uncertain for a long time. And that itself will create opportunity. If you wait for the market to stabilize for you to start investing, you will never start. Start tomorrow, invest as much as you can, invest, curtail, and if you want to make up for it, curtail some of your expenditure and invest that money as well.
Next up, Siva Naresh asks, if investing is about picking fundamentally good companies, then why do some good companies fail to outperform?
Sorry, I didn't get your second part of the question.
Siva Naresh wants to know that why do fundamentally good companies fail to outperform if investing is indeed about investing in fundamentally good companies?
Fundamentally good companies, I'm sure that they beat the benchmark by a wide margin over a long period of time. But at the same time, if you are looking at a short time period, if you are looking at yesterday, if you are looking at 7 days, if you are looking at 15 days, fundamentals don't play out. Noise impacts. And let me assure you that the number of fundamentally strong companies managed by great management are very few. We have about 5,000 listed companies, or even more than that, of which about 1,800 companies are actively traded through the year, of which about mutual fund companies invest in no more than about 900 to 1,000 companies, of which 85% of their money will be invested in about 450 companies, of which 280 companies will be of in sizable volumes. And so I would say that the investable universe might look large, but the fundamentally strong companies managed by great management are not as many. I think 100 to 150 businesses are the ones which will be worth investing, and and also even their performance will be cyclical, because great management do not really insulate you from cyclicality of the underlying businesses. Besides that, there will be accidents. Every business is exposed to business risk. There could be a great company managed by a great management, which will face turbulence, which will face bad weather, which will face rough weather and interim. But if you look at 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, there are about 100 companies uh, who would have produced about 30% annualized return and more over the last 10 years. I think that really speaks. And there will be about 3,000 companies where the returns will be negative. Of course, they are completely their capitalization or scale of investment in them will be very small. So fundamentally strong companies do very well over a long period of time, and the way to deal with it is diversify. The a great company uh, might turn weak, and that is the name of the game. That is the risk that you are assuming. So diversify across fundamentally strong companies, and if you get greatly lucky with 5 of them, and if you are very unfortunate with another 5 and 10 of them do reasonably okay, you will be very well off.
Thanks, Hiren. We'll have time for one last question for today's session. Vedant asks, what's the difference between the growth and the dividend reinvestment options of a fund?
Uh, Dividend and the dividend reinvestment option are little different, in a sense that dividend plan will give you will get the dividend in your bank account or by way of check, and dividend reinvestment means the dividend will be given to you, but it will be but the fund itself will you'll be issued more units equal to that amount. So the dividend reinvestment plan, from your point of view, it is nothing but all your all your periodic payout is also accumulating.
Thanks, Hiren. That's all for today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining in. We could not cover or we could not talk as much about our initially planned topic, risks of investing in equity, as much in today's session, given the big announcement of the week. But we'll look to cover that in greater detail next time. Do join in.